So hi everybody and welcome back. This is a C++ tutorial series for absolute beginners. This is video number 8 and in this video we are talking about variables. Let me make a fast example and then we talk about this example. It is a very simple example. We start with int, we know this already, and then we write the variable name. For example, my telephone number, which I will tell you soon, and then we stop here. So I don't tell you the telephone number because this is just a variable name without my number. Okay, that's enough for this simple example, and we talk about all the three parts. We have here int, my telephone number, variable name, and this semicolon at the end. But before we talk about this, let me give you another example because perhaps you know already what a variable is. Even we have not talked about this, and for this we jump to our browser and let's say you have saved your telephone number here anywhere in your text file, and now you want to save this telephone number in this hard drive here. And what you normally do is perhaps create a new folder. So let's create a folder for this one, new folder, and then you write there to know what you are putting in this folder, my telephone number. So, and then you find your text file where you wrote down your telephone number and drag and drop it here in. And you see this process, what you did here, is actually similar to a variable here in C++. Only the big difference is that you don't drag and drop here the information here in this variable name. We will assign it. And let's go back to our example. So, oh wait, let's compare this again a little bit. So we have created a folder and we called it my telephone number. And here on the left side in C++, we created also a kind of folder where we want to put something in. We want save this here also something, and exactly the same actually, the telephone number. And here it is called the variable name. Okay, then I have to find now anywhere my text file where I have noted my phone number, and then I will drag and drop it here. This one perhaps you know, but the problem, the same goes here actually in C++. Right now I don't have here a telephone number. That's why I stopped here, and later we have to find our noted telephone number, and anyhow we have to drag. In C++ we can't drag and drop, we have assign it in here. Okay, so this is very similar, very straightforward, and only the name is not the same. Here it's called a folder, here it's called a variable name, for example, and here we have something else. We have here an int and a semicolon, and this one we are talking now. So what is this int in front? Let's bring our folder back. What is this int? We have here no int. For example, in my telephone number example, I just drag and drop my telephone number, and here this int is a class, and a class you can think at start is a restriction. Wait a minute, this is not the correct explanation, because a class is not a real restriction. It is a class, it is a type. This will be explained later in a class and type when we are there. But right now at start, think about this. A class or a type is a restriction. And why I'm saying it's a restriction, because this one here says you are not allowed to put all what you want in here. For example, in my folder, I put my telephone number, a text file with my telephone number in. Here is no restriction. We have here no restriction. I can put in a picture file. I can put in here in my folder a video file and all. But in C++, with this type in front, it says no, 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 my friend. It says you are not allowed to put all what you want in. You are only to put in what I allow, and this int here is a shortcut for integer, and an integer you have to watch the online documentation for a detailed explanation, but in general it means full point numbers, so no, also not decimal point numbers. Let me give you a fast example. For example, I can write here, you can put in telephone numbers. These are full point numbers, right? But you can't put in an int class decimal point numbers, like something like that. This one you can't put in, and if you put this one in, it will cut out this here. This is not good, so don't put this in, or it will give you a compiler error. So you just think about at start. We will talk about this class type when we are there. At start, you just know, okay, this type which is behind is a restriction. I can't put all thing in. Here we have then learn all. When anyone is writing here in front of a variable, the type, you have to check what restriction it is. In this case, you are only allowed to put numbers here. Integer, only put numbers in it, into your variable, which would mean here in our case, in my demonstration with this folder, here I have no restriction. I can put numbers, my text node with my telephone number. I could here throw video files and what I want. This works not in C++. And the last thing, what we have here is this semicolon. We don't talk about this much too. And this one is called in C++ something like a terminator, which means later when you press here start and the compiler is compiling your code, which means translating all what you have in machine code. But before it translates, it will also check this. But when it is translating, it will go this way. It goes here, starts here, and then goes line by line, and it goes till it finds a semicolon, and then it stops here. It compiles this one, translates all first till this point, and then goes to the next line till it finds again a semicolon, and then it compiles all that what comes after this semicolon till the next semicolon, and then translate this again. We will talk about this semicolon a little bit more in detail perhaps, but right now you should only know this one is the end statement, which means after this line it stops and then it starts. You should start normally, not all time, a new line. Very important here about format. Sometimes if you have a very bad format, don't be irritated about this one. For example, the compiler don't care if you write it this way, what I did here, which is a bad style, but it works because the compiler said, it's okay for me. You have the problem to read it, not me. I know my definitions. I know how to read that, because the compiler will say, I go start line, read till the semicolon, then I stop. I compile this, then I start after the semicolon, and I read till I find again the next semicolon, and so on. But for style purposes, you should make here like you want a new line and so on, so that you have not a problem to read. So this one, this we will talk about style too, but just as an info, but now we are talking about variables. So back to our variables. So what have we done? We have made here something called like a class, like a type, and it behaves like a restriction. Then we have the second part. We have here a variable name, which behaves like our folder, and in this folder we want to put something, right? And in this case the variable name should be descriptive. Yes, it is. In this variable name I want to put, for example, my telephone number, and then we have the semicolon which says, okay, the compiler, the translator will later go first here, stop here, translate it, and then go to the next line, or it will just follow here till it finds again the next semicolon. Okay, this was a start, but we have a little bit more. So let's make here a little bit more examples. For example, how to create a variable, another variable. You would start here. Let's create again a number variable, int, and this time I say I need your telephone number. How I do this? So I have just to choose a right variable name. I say int your telephone number, and I end it with a semicolon, and that's it. So you create like this a variable. But one more note, and very big note, this is not finished. Like I said, we have to find later the telephone number, right? And we have to find a way to put the telephone number here in my folder example. Here is my folder. Later I go here where I saved my text file with the telephone number, and then I drag and drop it here, and later I open it and I have it. But this thing we have to do with variables as well, anyhow, but not in this video. Let's concentrate us here one more time about this class. There is perhaps we should, oh no, we don't introduce that one. I wanted to introduce a letter class. For example, here I said this one allows only full numbers. There's another very primitive class. I can introduce that one, for example, float. It's float, and here float, this restriction says now you can point in decimal point numbers, and let's say float your, I need what I need from you, which has a decimal point numbers, your height, or your, I don't know what we can take, which has the decimal point numbers. Okay, float. Okay, a random decimal point number. So that's okay. It's a very bad name, but a random decimal point number. I write only decimal point number. It's okay. And here the difference is now this float is again a class, a type, a restriction, and says please put only here in this variable name later a decimal point number. But here it's strange, right? Here I said before something strange, and what is strange is here I said here in int you can only put full numbers like 1, 2, 3 or something like that, and so on. With int, let's say with int here, with int you can put something like that, and this one says here you can put also decimal point numbers. Let's make here some decimal point numbers. With float I can put now here something like 1.5, 3.3, so, and 4 point. and so on. But here is something interesting. Of course, this one allows you to put in full numbers to the float. Why that? Because, yes, let me give you an example. For example, 1. I can put this here in float 2. But I have here a problem. When you do this one with the restriction, and it is not an int, you have still to use the point and then write perhaps a 0 after it. 1 and 1 0 is the same, but this one is a representation in int, and this is a representation in float. So when you use full numbers, for example, let's use this one too, this bigger one, in float, then you write 456.0. And actually there is one more thing, but we will talk about this later, because we have to write then an F later behind this, which indicates a float, but later when we assign a value to them. So I think this one we stop here, and fast recap. The only thing what you need to know is that you choose a variable name, then you have a class, a restriction in front. You check first what this restriction is. At start we learn only this int, and float we learned a little bit but not much. And this int means just full numbers. You have use here now the online documentation or your C++ book for detailed information, because here is a lot to talk about int and float. But as a practical view, also here in this video, you just remember these are primitive types, and then you choose your variable name and this semicolon. One more note about this variable name, but not in this video. We will talk about how you choose this variable name also in the next video, because there's a lot of talk too, and variables are later very, very important, and I will show you why when we are at this point. So thanks so far. Bye all.